Republican Representative Laurel Libby of Auburn has filed a lawsuit in federal district court against the Maine Speaker of the House. In a social media post, Libby says that a lawsuit was filed against Democratic Representative Ryan Fecteau of Biddeford for, quote, attempting to silence both myself and my constituents whom I was elected to represent, unquote. Libby was censored last month by Maine lawmakers for her social media post about a transgender student athlete. House lawmakers voted 75-70 to censor Libby. A spokesperson for Fecteau's office says that he will not be commenting on the litigation at this time.